Hey friends, welcome. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever put off starting something because you wanted it to be just right? Maybe it was a project, a hobby, or even a conversation you needed to have. If you've ever found yourself stuck in that loop, you're not alone. In a world that seems to value perfection over everything else, many of us get caught in this trap. But today, I want to suggest something radical. Perfection isn't the answer. In fact, it's often the problem. Yep, you heard me right. The pursuit of perfection can actually hold us back from our true potential, our happiness, and even our success. So, let's dive into how we can break free from this mindset and embrace something much more powerful: imperfection. First, let's understand what perfectionism really is. You see, perfectionism isn't just about aiming high. It's about setting standards so unrealistic that they're nearly impossible to reach. According to Dr. Brené Brown, perfectionism is less about being perfect and more about avoiding criticism. It's like a shield we use to protect ourselves from judgment. But here's the catch. That shield becomes a cage. It keeps us from trying new things, from learning, and from growing. Think about it. Have you ever stopped yourself from sharing an idea because you weren't 100% sure it was perfect? The problem with perfectionism is that it's not a motivator, it's a roadblock. So the first step to beating it is to recognize it for what it really is: fear in disguise. Now we need to focus on progress over perfection. Imagine trying to climb a mountain in one giant leap. Sounds impossible, right? But what if you focused on just taking one small step at a time? That's what focusing on progress over perfection is all about. Psychologists often refer to this as Kaizen, a Japanese concept that emphasizes small, continuous improvements. Research from Dr. Carol Dweck, who's famous for her work on growth mindset, shows that when we focus on effort and small wins, we're more likely to keep going. Why? Because each little victory releases dopamine, the brain's feel-good chemical, and it's like a reward for moving forward. So let's stop waiting to take that perfect step and start taking the next step, no matter how small it is. Embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. And let's talk about mistakes. Yes, they're uncomfortable, but did you know that your brain actually learns faster when you make them? Neuroscientists have discovered that mistakes create a state called neuroplasticity, where your brain is more open to adapting and improving. So, the next time you mess up, remember this: mistakes don't mean you've failed. They mean you're trying. And trying means you're learning. It's all about changing how you see mistakes, not as failures, but as feedback. Each mistake is a clue, guiding you toward better solutions. Set realistic goals. One of the biggest pitfalls of perfectionism is setting unrealistic expectations. It's like trying to run a marathon without any training. It's going to be frustrating and probably painful. The SMART Goals framework, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, can be a game changer here. When you set realistic, bite-sized goals, you're not setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for success. And guess what? Achieving these smaller goals boosts your confidence, reduces anxiety, and makes you somebody who will keep moving forward. Cultivate SelfCompassion. Now here's a radical idea. Be kind to yourself. Dr. Kristen Neff, a leading researcher on self-compassion, found that people who treat themselves with kindness are less likely to burn out or feel anxious. When you're kind to yourself, your brain releases oxytocin, the love hormone, which calms you down and makes you feel safe. So think about it this way. If a friend came to you feeling down about a mistake that they had made, would you criticize them or encourage them? Now, why don't we do the same thing for ourselves? Self-compassion isn't about lowering your standards. It's about giving yourself permission to be human. Adopt a growth mindset. Speaking of being human, let's talk about mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on the growth mindset reveals that people who believe they can improve over time actually do improve. It's a simple shift from thinking, I need to be perfect, to thinking, I'm here to learn. When you adopt a growth mindset, you become more adaptable, more resilient, and ultimately more successful. Practice good enough. Now, I know this one might sound strange, but I want you to please hear me out. Sometimes good enough really is good enough. This doesn't mean settling for mediocrity. It means avoiding endless tweaking and perfection paralysis. Studies on decision making show that people who aim for good enough tend to make faster decisions and are actually happier with outcomes than those who chase perfection. So let's start giving ourselves permission to stop at good enough sometimes. It's not about cutting corners. It's about focusing on what truly matters and then moving forward. So here's the takeaway. Perfectionism might seem like the path to success, but it's actually the barrier that holds you back. Progress beats perfectionism every single time. Growth comes from embracing imperfection, learning from mistakes, and taking action, no matter how imperfect it may be. So the next time you catch yourself hesitating because it's not perfect, ask yourself, am I moving forward or am I staying stuck? Remember, life isn't about being flawless, it's about being fearless. Embrace your imperfect journey and keep growing. One step, one mistake, one good enough at a time. And if anybody can do it, friends, you can. You're worth it and you're amazing. This is my favorite time every day, the time I get to spend with you. I'll be back tomorrow with some more great stuff, and I can't wait to see you. Take care.